Add myself to the stage, and then add this. Hey, it worked. Hey, I just want to confirm that it's working. Can someone reply and say yes? It says it's live. I don't know that it is. I swear to God, every time I do these, it's what, wow, words. I forget how to use StreamYard every time. Can you guys hear me? Can everyone hear me? All right, thank you. I as infrequent as I use StreamYard, I have to like teach myself again how to use it. Not that it's overly complicated. It's just I'm lost. Hello, writing sisters. So happy to see you. Yeah, I'm psyched. Yeah. Yeah, I get these the new release giddies. Um yeah, this series was really fun to write because it really let me delve into Lisa's backstory and dig into all this stuff. When I was writing The Unlife of Lisa Cooper, I started talking a little bit about, alluding to stuff that happened in her past, particularly stuff that happened with her creator. Her creator's name is William Donovan, and some of that backstory. And I started thinking to myself, wow, there's a story there, and I would really love to dig into that and talk about what those first formative years were for her. And that's where I wasn't really planning on even writing this until I wrote the Unlife of Lisa Cooper. And then, hello, Lunas. Good evening. Oh, I didn't recognize your name from the. It's Nicole. I'm like calling you Lunas over here. Yes. But yeah, I wasn't even planning on writing it. And then I wrote The Unlife of Lisa Cooper. And then I was like, oh, I want to dig into this backstory. So there you have it. So I have some games planned. And I thought about, excuse me, I thought about actually reading the first chapter. I don't know. Do people into that? I don't want to. I don't want to presume, but I thought that might be fun. And you can hear my terrible Irish accent because when I wrote all the dialogue and everything's in her voice, so I sort of wrote it with her voice in mind, and of course she has an Irish accent, and yes, read it. All right, good. Yeah, and that's why if for the people that ask me, oh, are you going to do an audiobook? I would love to, and if I ever do, I'd want to find the same woman consistent throughout all the Lisa stuff that I do, and she'd have to be able to do an Irish accent. So right now it's not in the budget. Lauren did send me someone who sounds amazing. I checked out her page, and I don't know if she can do an Irish accent, but it's kind of moot right now because I can't afford that right now. It's not in the budget. But if I can get to that point, that's going to be the first question I ask her because she's got a real professional resume that sounds really good. All right. So I think we talked a little bit about the book, Vampires of 1863. I think, well, at least for the people watching, well, I got to keep in mind that some people might catch this after I go live and catch the thing afterwards. So for those who don't know, The Vampires of 1863 follows a vampire named Siobhan McQueenie in the year 1863. She's only been a vampire for 3 years, and she's not very good at it. And she's not good at using like her charming gaze, which, a vampire, that's one of their hunting tools, where they can kind of saddle up to someone and kind of say, hey, how's it going? And, charm you. We've seen this in movies and stuff. I'm not reinventing anything here, or I'm not creating anything new here. Same kind of deal. So she's not very good at charming people. She can't really turn into a bat or a wolf at this point. It's talked about in the book. We never see it because, she can't do it. So as she's this kind of stumbling vampire, still trying to keep her footing, she's trying to hold on to her old life in a couple of different ways. In one way, she's trying to hold on to her humanity, right? To sort of not give in to the temptations of her curse. She looks at some of the older vampires around her, and she thinks, I don't want that to be me one day. No, you weren't being, no pushiness at all. I believe me, I would love to be. That would be so awesome. And the other part of her desire to hold on to her humanity is that her family is still alive. It's the year 1863. She still has a brother and little sisters, and her parents, they're alive. This is when they lived, in the 1800s. And so she will try to steal away into the North End to visit them. Her creator is not very happy with that because, vampires really should break ties with their mortal contacts, their previous life, because ultimately you need to keep what you are a secret. And, for the people that knew you when, they may start asking questions, and suddenly you're in a position where you could be exposing yourself or vampire kind in general. So it's very dangerous to keep up ties with your mortal friends and family members. So she's kind of straddling that as best as she can, not very well. And things get worse when she stumbles upon a murder. And when that happens, and it's a murder of a vampire, a vampire in her bleed. So all the vampires together in a single region are referred to as a vampire bleed. So within the vampire bleed of New England, there's Siobhan, there's her creator, there's an elder lord who rules over all, and one of the members of the bleed is murdered, and she's at the wrong place in the wrong time and gets thrust into this whole plot between vampires and fae as they vie for control of the city. And I think most people know this. If you don't know, I'll tell you, but this is a prequel to The Unlife of Lisa Cooper. When I'm talking about Siobhan McQueenie, I'm talking about Lisa Cooper. Lisa Cooper is an alias that she has since taken on, but she was born Siobhan McQueenie. Yeah, exactly. Right. What could possibly go wrong when you're trying to fake it? And the answer is lots of things could go wrong and do go wrong. Did I intend both this book and The Unlife of Lisa Cooper to be a standalone instead of a prequel? I did intend this to be a prequel, but a standalone prequel, yes. But I always intended The Unlife of Lisa Cooper to be a series. So what happened was, when I was doing this on Kindle Vella, I had basically what I would consider season 2, but it's going to wind up being book 2 now, already outlined. And when I started writing all this backstory for Lisa, I was like, oh my God, I want to write that. So I veered off and wrote The Vampires of 1863 as a Kindle Vella series, distracted myself, and then I'm like, oh, I'll get to season 2 later. but between that point in the middle of me writing The Vampires of 1863, I had decided that I was going to move away from Vela and go back to writing novels instead. So I never did a second season on the Vela side, but that will be book 2. I think that answers your question. So they are, you can read one without needing to read the other, is the short answer. All right, so I have the first prize drawing, and I think it's just going to be like a couple of people here. Wait, no, what do we have to? Oh, we have to wait for the book. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping to be closing in on 60,000 words soon. I'm very close to finishing the second act and kicking into the third act. So it's coming along, but then comes all the edits, right? And the beta readers and the critique partners and professional editor and all this kind of stuff. So I meant to read this. I made a slide for it. This is the blurb of The Vampires of 1863. Whoops. Vampires and Fae have a tenuous relationship. Their arrangement dates back to ancient times, and the balance is delicate at best. When a vampire is killed by a mysterious entity, the young vampire Siobhan McQueenie is thrust into a plot to free Boston from the hold of the Fae that the Fae Lords have upon their city. So I get into this a little bit in the book, and I've done videos on this, why there's all this entanglement between the Fae and the vampires. And the short answer is basically that the very first vampire that was created by the Tuatha De Danann, particularly the goddess, the Morrigan, goddess of war and death. And she was punishing this evil king. And what this evil king decided to do was partner up with a magical redcap who used dark magic to twist the Morrigan's curse and create some beneficial aspects to it. And, became, so he had like the lousy stuff that she cursed him with, being a vampire, and all the cool stuff too, And then he took his little undead act and took it on the road, and he embraced a lot of other people and created more vampires and all this kind of stuff and caused a real problem. So meanwhile, the Tuatha De Danann are like, what have you done? And they needed to kind of put a lid on this, because as vampires were spreading through Europe, other gods and pantheons were kind of saying, what is this? Can you clean up your yard, please? So the Tuatha De Danann basically had the Fae start corralling the vampires and culling them in some cases, but really restricting their movements and their ability to grow and reproduce, and really controlled their population. And that whole thing is what I call the Skallic predominance, which is kind of this shadow government of Fae Lords that rule over the vampires and make sure that they don't spread too much and take over, or cause too much problems. And this book deals with the confrontation of those vampire lords and the Fae Lords kind of coming together. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, my Fae, I tried to use Irish kind of representation on mine, and but I took some liberties with the she. I really kind of went off the reservation with the she. But they're meant to be Irish as well. All right, so I had the early bird prize. Let's see if I can do this. So I want to do like the prize wheel here. Is it this? Bear with me here while I... All right, I think this is it. So if you want to be considered to win a copy of the Vampires of 1863, just put in pound 1863 in the chat. And once that's done, once everyone has done that who wants to win, then I will spin the wheel. So if you want a copy, put in pound 1863 in the chat. If you don't, that's okay. I know a couple of you have already bought a copy. If I have extra at the end of this live stream, I'll believe me, I'll give them away somewhere else or donate them to a library. It's all good. And there'll be 2 more prize drawings tonight anyway. But you have to put, I'll just put it, pound 1863 in the comment. Yep. Okay. So that's one. Wasn't sure if we had another. Well, if it's just one, then it's going to be Lauren. There's no need to spin the wheel. Yeah, I know you mentioned. You bought one already. I wasn't sure. I mean, I wasn't sure if you wanted to. Oh my God, Megan Aldridge is here. Oh, it's so good to see you. How have you been? Thank you for coming by. You are so missed in the author community, let me tell you. I'm still looking forward to your sequel, by the way, too. Yeah, she can win too, of course. So, Megan, we just went over kind of the premise of the Vampires of 1863 and the plot, how it's a prequel and all this kind of stuff. And if you want to win a signed copy, put in pound 1863 in the chat, and you'll be considered for the prize, the roulette, the wheel. She may not still be on. I'm showing 2 people on. Well, maybe we'll postpone the drawing and then we'll see what happens. It sounds like, Lauren, you're probably going to get a signed copy either way. But Nicole, I wasn't sure if you're going to put one in, but it's not too late. We'll do 2 more drawings, and that's okay. So we will remove that for now, and then add this back into the stage. All right, so let's move on with game number 1. We're going to do 2 truths and a lie. And basically, I'm going to read 3 truths. I'm going to read 3 bits of information. 2 of them are true. 1 of them is a lie. Put in the letter that you think is a lie. And there's no prize for this. This is just for fun. This is just trivia for Siobhan McQueenie and the Vampires of 1863. These are about Lisa. They're about Siobhan. Well, they're specifically about Siobhan. So I know they're the same person, but that's an important distinction because it's about her in this setting. So there's going to be I get a little tricky here where some of the questions might be true of her in the future. in The Unlife of Lisa Cooper, but they're not true of her in The Vampires of 1863. Okay, so True Truths and a Lie. Round one. A. Siobhan loves the tin whistle. B. Siobhan is faster than a horse. C. Siobhan's creator is William Donovan. So put in your best guesses. We have Megan says A. Nicole says A. Give it a couple of seconds. So what I can tell you is the tin whistle is a traditional Irish instrument. It's like a little pan flute looking thing. Well, it doesn't have the wide, right? It's just like a singular with it's like a little flute, and it's an Irish flute. It's a tin whistle, and she does like it. It's one of the instruments that she enjoys at that time period, anyway. The lie is that Lisa is not faster than a horse. It was true, it is true in the modern day. She gets faster, but young Lisa, young Siobhan, the 3-year-old vampire, is not faster than a horse. That one I was getting tricky on you. Round two. Siobhan is terrible at her charming gaze. B. Siobhan is forbidden from seeing her family. C. Siobhan hates goblins. I may have given some of these answers away already. Eloise, thank you for joining. We're in the middle of two truths and a lie. Lauren says C. Nicole says B. Megan says B. I don't know if you want to weigh in, Eloise, with true truths and a lie. This is, some folks haven't read this book, so it's really just a stab, but it's a best guess. She's a vampire. A charming gaze is kind of what it sounds like. It's you look at someone and hocus pocus them, and they're kind of charmed to you. And there are fae in my setting too, so there are goblins in this book. So, but the lie is that Siobhan hates goblins. She doesn't hate goblins. She doesn't have a problem with them. That's just kind of how she is. Round three. A. Vampires rule under the yoke of Fey lords and nobles. I think we just talked about that a little while ago. B. Irish are not welcome in many parts of the cities. And C. Ivan McAllister is Lord of the New England Bleed. She's had some problems with red caps for sure. So which one is the lie? Keep in mind, this is the 1800s with Irish immigrants. That's a hint. Nicole says A is the lie. Lauren says B is the lie. The lie is actually C. in the year 1863, Ivan McAllister is not the Lord of the New England Bleed. That was kind of a tricky question. If you haven't read it, you wouldn't know that, because he is the Lord of the New England Bleed in The Unlife of Lisa Cooper, the modern day. In this book, the Lord of the New England Bleed is Don Esteban Santiago, who is a very old, very powerful vampire. No, it's a new book. It's just supposed to be, best guess, like throwing spitball in here. Yeah, Don Esteban Santiago is the Lord of the New England Bleed at this time, and very old, very powerful. It is set during the Irish witch hunts. I'm not familiar with Irish witch hunts. I'll have to ask you about that. I've never heard of that. I can tell you that the Irish were not welcome at this period of time, and I delve into that a little bit. I think we've probably seen signs that say stuff like, Irish need not apply. They'd run newspaper ads looking for like a maid or some job, and they'd say, look, you got to be Protestant. Don't even bother to apply if you're Irish. That kind of stuff they'd put in the want ads back then. And those kind of obstacles are present in Siobhan's life, where she's still kind of tethered, or trying to keep herself tethered to the mortal world. Her family is still dealing with that kind of stuff. But remind me, I'm going to ask you about those Irish witch hunts. I didn't know about those. The only witch hunts I know about in Massachusetts were in Salem, which was the 1600s, much earlier. Round 4. Vampires. A. Vampires can sustain themselves on animal blood. B. Vampires can turn into both a bat and a wolf. C. Vampires burn in the sun. I feel like everybody should get this one. So, which is the lie? Nicole says B. C. Which is the lie? So the lie is that vampires can sustain themselves on animal blood. They have to drink from a human. Yep, they have to drink from a human. And the reason, I was actually inspired by that one from Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, because a lot of Siobhan, Lisa, I tried to, the character Louis from Interview with a Vampire was a big inspiration for her. The idea of a vampire that was still trying to hold on to their humanity. I had never seen that before. I had only ever seen vampires as, the monster you have to kill, or if they were like an action hero, they had no remorse. They were just like, I'm a vampire and this is what I do. I kill people and I drink blood and I don't care. Apathetic. Louis was the first character I ever saw who was a vampire that was like, this kind of sucks and I don't want to hurt anybody and I need to be careful. And in the book, he was actually feeding on rats and things like this and drinking blood from animals in the woods because he didn't want to hunt. He didn't want to hurt people. And yeah, exactly. So I didn't want to give Lisa or Siobhan an easy out. I didn't want her to be able to be like, well, I'm not going to hunt. I'll just go in the woods and find a squirrel or something. I'm forcing the character to do it because there is no other way to sustain yourself. So, but that was a kind of a roundabout nod to Anne Rice. Reading an act. Okay, here's where I read. I was debating doing this. I was gonna read chapter 1, and The reason I put in my awful Irish accent is because when I wrote this, I wrote it in her voice, and I made the decision not to write in her accent. You know, sometimes that's really hard to read when there's all these weird contractions and misspellings to try to convey how she's saying the word. And I thought that's going to be really hard to read if I do all that nonsense. But I did one thing to hopefully convey her accent to the reader in a subtle way. And that was I used the word me instead of my, which is very common in Ireland. They'll say, oh, I woke up this morning and went to me job, that sort of thing. I drove me car to work, that sort of thing. And she'll say things like me and meself and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully it translates. Eva, oh my God, thank you so much for joining. You showed up in time for the reading. You'll have to excuse my horrible Irish accent. And if I drift into Scottish, please forgive me. But here goes. Chapter 1, the Vampires of 1863. And the title of this is Vengeance. The India House Tavern had nothing to do with India. It faced the harbor on India Street, adjacent to the India Wharf. I was never sure how these places got their names. India was thousands of miles away from Boston. The door to the tavern swung open, letting the once muffled music spill out into the night air in all its drunken, sloppy glory. Not a single whistle nor fiddle could be heard amongst the ensemble. Noise. Me quarry stumbled out and onto the street. I didn't know his name. I just knew he was one of them, the know-nothings. I waited a moment in case any of his fellows joined him. Earlier I'd seen a few others leave the tavern in groups. Too risky. I needed one alone. "You drunken bastards!" The man laughed to himself. "See you tomorrow." He waved to an unseen crowd behind the door he'd staggered 30 paces from. Drunk and alone. Me lucky night. I tailed him. I didn't want to be too obvious. At 1 a.m, the streets were empty save for us, and he was too pissed to notice me. He turned onto Milk Street. The long street ran perpendicular to the harbour and pierced well into downtown. It didn't matter. He'd never make it to Broad Street. I rounded the corner behind him, flanked by brick buildings on either side. The shadows blotted out the moonlight, bathing us in darkness. "Nice night," I said. The man stopped and turned. He squinted at me as if narrowing his eyes would help him see through his drunken stupor. "What?" "Nice night." I moved closer. "You Irish?" He seemed confused. His eyes bounced up and down, taking me in. I may have spoken like an Irish woman, but I didn't dress like one. Draped in one of the finest dresses Boston could offer, I looked nothing like a fresh-off-the-boat gutter snipe. "You lost?" It was more of a jeer than a question of concern. "No." "Fucking Irish cow. Yes, you are. They got you all dressed up, eh? Bet you still talk like them. Bet you still stink like them. Come closer and find out. What are you, some kind of Irish fancy girl? You lot turning tricks in the streets now?" He slurred. "You're one of the know-nothings." He smirked, glassy-eyed. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Interesting tactics you boys have, playing dumb. Just makes you look like an idiot." He stumbled toward me. "Someone ought to mind that mouth of yours." The anticipation of the evening had led to this moment. The fool was about to walk right into striking distance of his own accord. Me heart beat faster. A smile spread across me face. I was going to enjoy this. He stopped just short of me reach. His eyes fell to me dress. "What are you, rich?" I'd purchased me dress in Back Bay. Never in my life had I imagined I could afford such a thing, and the dress I had was merely only one of the ones I'd set aside for hunting. Confusion washed over his face. Perhaps I played this wrong. I wasn't hunting to feed. I was hunting for vengeance. And looking like someone from downtown instead of the North End, he seemed to consider me in a new light. I made note of that. Next time I hunted to throw someone a beating, I'd have to do it in simpler clothes. What's the matter? Not so brave when you don't have your boys with you, I figured I'd lure him another way. Huh? You and your know-nothing friends, ganging up on lone Irishmen, 6-on-1 in some cases. His eyes fell to me dress again as he considered me. Fuck off. He turned and started walking away. Aw, the hell with this. In a heartbeat, I closed the distance between us and grabbed his collar of his jacket. I jerked him backwards and behind me. He cried out in alarm. I whirled around and punched him square in the face. His nose collapsed in a sickening crunch. Blood splattered from his nostrils and bathed his mouth and chin. Oh, you bitch! My nose! One hand cradled his pulverized nose. The other hand lashed out as he grabbed for me. I caught his hand in a pedestrian amount of effort. I crushed it within me grasp. Bones cracked between me fingers, and the man screamed out in pain. I grabbed his jaw. Shut up, or I'll burst your jaw next. You won't be able to eat solid food for the rest of your life. He whimpered. What are you? No one would believe me if I told you. I leapt on him. I may as well feed on the bastard while I have him. We tumbled to the ground, and I sank my fangs into him. I covered his mouth with me hand. Beer-soaked blood hit me tongue, bitter, as if the copper taste wasn't bad enough. I pulled back after half a pint. You're going to stay away from the Irish. You hear me? You and your little friends. You get me? He nodded emphatically. Good. I resumed me dinner. The next moment I found myself tossed aside from behind. I tumbled across the cobblestone and clambered to me feet. Someone was about to get a mouthful of broken teeth. Mind yourself, Siobhan, William said. I was face to face with me creator. Bollocks. I straightened and brushed the dirt from me dress. I was merely hunting. Oh, I can see that. Making all sorts of noise in the middle of Milk Street. Did you even charm him? The feeding was an afterthought. I got caught up in teaching him a lesson. I tried to affect a demure tone. I knew I was in trouble. Teaching him a... William couldn't finish the sentence. He glowered at me. He's a know-nothing. And besides, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. The streets are empty. The city's asleep. Or they were until your racket, William growled. Do you even know how dangerous it is to leave them uncharmed? Showing them what we are? You're Irish too, I offered. It was a weak defense. William never really had to deal with what normal Irish folk dealt with. He was third generation, and he lived downtown. He didn't have our accent. I am more than Irish, and so are you. You cling too much to your petty moral peeves. These men are insignificant. You're letting the trivial matters of your former life cloud your judgment. We talked about this. My so-called life was only 3 years ago, and I couldn't tell him the truth. I couldn't tell him why I was hunting know-nothings. I bowed me head. I'm sorry. My victim had gotten to his feet. He turned, about to make a break for it. William was on him before I could blink, not even a blur. Before I could protest, the man's head spun nearly backwards, swiveled on a shattered neck. William dropped the dead body to the street. Why? I shouted. His eyes were baleful. When we do not charm the ones we partake of, we leave them to retain a clear mind of what happened. They talk. They spin stories. There are still places in Europe where these stories are alive and well. But here in the New World, they're myths, and we would do well to keep them that way. But you killed him. You could have charmed him. I'm surprised you care. He shrugged. I'm not taking any chances, lest you get paid a visit by Tailcoat Jack. A shiver went up me spine at his name. Tailcoat Jack, the enforcer of the Lord of the New England Bleed, Don Esteban Santiago. So we just leave him in the street? I asked. We can't exactly call in goblins to magic all this away, and I'm not carrying... William put up a hand. We leave him here, he said. The mortals will come up with their own cause of death. Maybe he fell off a horse or was struck by a cart. There is nothing here that links his death to us. William cast a look at the crumpled stiff at his feet. But we should go. Where? William frowned. I was going to drop you off at the house, but I think you'll need a chaperone tonight. I don't need a chaperone. And where are you going? I have a meeting with Ivan. Not your concern. William began walking back to the India Tavern. I followed behind him, picking up the hem of me dress. I don't need a chaperone, I protested. You're acting like a pasty. I thought you were old enough to hunt on your own. Maybe I was mistaken. So you'll have Fiddlehead mind me while you're away? No, we're not going home. I'm taking you to Nigel's. Nigel's? That threw me for a loop. Fiddlehead held the door to William's carriage for us. Me creator's servant was dressed in the styles 20 years out of date, but no less dapper. His long tailcoat was embroidered with gold thread, and bulky white cuffs peeked out from under the sleeves. He wore buckled shoes and a brimmed hat that accented with a large floppy feather. My eyes allowed me to see through Fiddlehead's glamour, of course. In truth, the goblin was only about 3 feet tall, and his yellowish skin was covered in knobs and unsightly blemishes. He wasn't much to look at, Fiddlehead, but he and I got along just fine. Thanks, Fiddlehead, I said. Evening, Miss Siobhan. Bashing heads tonight? That'll do, Fiddlehead. Drive us to Nigel Bringham's, said William. Yes, sir. The little goblin ran off and took the reins while William and I climbed into the carriage. William's carriage was luxury on wheels. The seats alone were nicer than anything me family had to sit on back home. Leather stuffed with cotton and threaded up as fine as Fiddlehead's coat. The wood was dark and smooth, with swirling designs carved into the interior molding. The wee windows even had curtains. Normally, I loved riding in the beautiful coach, but I was too agitated to enjoy it. It wasn't like I was going to sneak out and beat up another know-nothing. I didn't need a chaperone. The carriage rolled to life in a lurch, and we were off. Nigel lived on Tremont Street near the Common. It was a quick drive to get there from here. For that, I was thankful. We rode in silence for the short drive. William was still fuming. We stepped out of the carriage and onto the front steps. The 2-story red brick house was accented by larger white bricks that ran up its length, framing the exterior walls. Additional white masonry framed the doorway and windows. It reminded me of something that was built for some founding father in the late 1700s, but I noticed the engraved cornerstone on the first step read 1853. William rapped on the door. I braced myself. This whole affair was going to be humiliating. Oh, hi, Nigel. Just dropping off me wee pasty who can't be left alone for 5 minutes lest you be bashing heads on the east side. After a moment, Nigel responded, looking surprised. No, not surprised. Worried. Guilty. Master Donovan. What a surprise, Nigel sputtered. Nigel, William affected a smile. I need to impose on you for a few hours. Do you mind? Nigel looked over his shoulder. May we come in? William didn't wait for an answer. He brushed past Nigel and I followed in behind him. Nigel's house reminded me of William's. The furniture was an ensemble of chairs, sofas, desks, and tables that were carved in twisted shapes from dark wood and affixed with puffy cushions upon their seats, backs, and armrests. I fancied such things in the palace of the Queen. Wallpaper adorned the walls up to chair rails that bisected their widths. Within the lower half, dark wooden panels ran their length. It was ornate and luxurious, but so very dreary. It was dark, and in the night, with the curtains drawn, the colorless furniture and walls offered no vibrance to the room. Nigel crossed out of the foyer and lit a kerosene lamp in the parlor. I followed him inside. The light didn't do much to bring any cheer to the room. Nigel, you know my scion, Siobhan McQueenie. Of course he did. His creator was Ivan McAllister, William's ally within the Bleed. Nigel and I were often put together, attending the same functions, meetings, and other nonsense with our creators. Of course, Nigel smiled. How do you do, Siobhan? I'm well, thank you. I did me best to hide me irritation with the situation. I still had me manners. He took me hand and kissed it. I grinned at the display. The git. Excellent, William proclaimed. Nigel, I need to attend a meeting with your creator for a few hours. Would you mind after Siobhan? She's been feeling a little high-spirited this evening. I glowered at William. A few hours? William asked. It won't be a problem? William asked. There was a thin veil of danger in his tone. No, sir. Happy to help. Good. William placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. I brought you here not to be cruel, but so you have someone to enjoy the evening with and while away while I attend to some business. Relax, socialize, have fun. He smiled at me. Yes, William. Nigel? William held out his hand. Nigel shook it. Mr. Donovan, don't worry, she's in good hands. A few more smiles all around, and me creator was out the door. I folded me arms and flashed Nigel a look. What? I can't believe he introduced us. That's 3 times he's done that. It's just good manners, like an announcement. Nigel grinned. I see you played the part of the gentleman meeting the lady and kissing me hand. Nigel looked over his shoulder again. His nervous expression returned. What is it? Tonight's not a good night for me, he said. Perfect, I shrugged. No offense, it's nice to see you and all. But after the night I had, I think I'd rather be alone. Tell William I grew bored and went out. I'll be home before sunrise. I moved to the door. Nigel grabbed me shoulder and held me fast. I'm afraid I can't let you do that, Siobhan. Whew. Okay, there's my horrible accent. So the chapters are about 2,000 words, and I see we have, which are about maybe 15-minute read each. I'm going to catch up on some commentaries that have come through. Hi, Eva. Thank you for joining. At least we get hopefully I didn't come off as Scottish. Ben, thank you so much for joining. Woohoo! Thank you so much for. Yes, that is a hard accent. Richard Holiday. Oh, Richard can weigh in on how my Irish accent was, and not that he's Irish, but he's heard a lot more of it than I have, I'm sure. It's got to be like midnight, right? In England right now. Bollocks, that's right. Richard Holiday. Thank you so much for joining, Rich. This is awesome. You guys are chatting up a storm. Love it. Does the accent come out when I'm drunk? It may. It may. I'm sometimes I go Scottish when I'm drunk. If I ever do the audiobook, yes, it would be done in an Irish accent, not by me, but by a professional and a woman. Has JM? I have been, not recently, but yes. Nigel is a scion to another elder, and William is an elder within the bleed. So, yeah, there's a pecking order for sure. There's absolutely a pecking order. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Holy crap! It's closer to 1. Oh my god. Oh well, yeah, because it's 7:50 here. Yeah, we started at 7. Send money now. All right, so there was the excerpt. Let's do the prize time. All right, this time, if you want to do a prize, let's just do pound prize. That's going to be, you put in pound and the prize, and yes, I will ship to England. I'll ship anywhere. You're here at 1 a.m. If you win, I'll ship it to you. Oh, very funny. Pound prize. Hashtag prize. Is that everyone? I want to make sure I got everybody. I hope I got everybody. Did I see one from Ben? Yep, Ben's in there. All right. Let's make sure. Okay, here we go. Yeah, Ben is always a winner. Oh, the suspense. Oh my God. Megan! Congratulations. Oh my God. Yeah, usually I'm the winner. I can't win tonight, though. I can't win my own book. Oh my God. Congratulations, Megan. That's awesome. Yeah, that's true. But I wanted to do it's a signed copy, so I definitely would send the that's true. Yeah. Oh my God, that's awesome. That is awesome. All right. Sorry, I'm just writing this down. If my pen would work. Woohoo! All right. Let's add this back in. I think it's on to game number 2, which is multiple choice trivia. And again, this is just for fun. This is just having, and no particular prize for this one. And we'll do it, but we will do another prize drawing after this game. So question 1, Irish immigrants in Boston settled in which part of the city? The A, the North End, B, the South End, or C, Back Bay? And I did read this just now if you caught it. Oh, congratulations, Megan. So we get A, B, A. And the answer is A, the North End. Eventually, the Irish moved out of the North End and the Italians moved in, and they're there today. The North End of Boston is the North End. It's all Italians, Italian Americans, and Southie, which is the South End, is a lot of Irish in that part of Boston. When I went to Ireland this past summer, I forget who I talked to, but it was someone in a pub, and he asked me if I went to Ireland to get away from all the Irish. And I told him I was from Boston, and he's like, "Did you come here to get away from all the Irish?" Question 2, which is not true of vampire physiology? Their hearts still beat. B, they can eat food. C, they still breathe. This is a bit, I'll tell you right now, this is a bit of a trick question. Yeah, great pizza in the North End. Definitely worth going. Their hearts still beat is A. B, they can eat food. C, they still breathe, which is not true. So we got three guesses so far. Place your bets. So the one that is not true is that they cannot breathe, which sounds crazy because we know that they can't eat food. But the trick of the question was vampires can chew food and swallow it. They're just in for a very rough night if they do. It doesn't end well for them. But they can technically eat food. But they cannot breathe at all. And the heart beats because blood is life, and that's where their power comes from. And the blood's, the heart still pumps blood that they need to do all the crazy vampire stuff that they do. So a little bit of a trick question. I'm sorry. Question 3. Madame Poppy is a character you may not know because you haven't read the book yet. Best guess here. Madame Poppy runs an establishment in the city. What is it? Is it A, a brothel, B, a vampire bar, or C, a fae market? Going B, C, B, B. Nicole, oh my God, thank you so much for joining. This is awesome. I'm so touched as so many people have joined them. This is really, really great. That's exactly it. Yeah. Same name as the poppy flower. So Madame Poppy runs a vampire bar called the Crocus Tavern, which is another flower. And that is in the book. You'll meet Madame Poppy and check out the Crocus Tavern in this book. Question 4. Which of the following vampire elders does not have a scion? Now, again, this is a guess if you haven't read the book, but I have given information on 2 of these, especially if you were here for when I read chapter 1. So, which of the vampire elders does not have a scion? Meaning, a scion is a vampire that they have created. Is it A, Richard Davenport, B, Ivan McAllister, or C, William Donovan? And I see lots of A's. Any other guesses? Nicole says A. And for those of you who have read The Unlife of Lisa Cooper, you may remember Richard. He was one of the vampire elders in that book as well. Richard is in this book too. And I'll just say, without any spoilers, I really enjoyed writing him in this book. But it's true. Richard does not have a scion. He's not created anybody. I don't know that he ever has. But he certainly hadn't in 1863. Ivan McAllister, of course, if you were around when I read chapter 1, he has a scion named Nigel. And William Donovan, of course, his sire is Siobhan. Oh, yeah, not Richard Holiday. No, we like Richard Holiday. Richard Davenport is a wanker. Yeah, no, to be very specific over which Richard we're talking about here. All right, I think this is the last question. What is the Scalic predominance? This is question number 5, and I babbled about this a little bit at the top of the video. You may not have heard it, but I've done other YouTube videos on this topic too. So what is the Scalic predominance? Is it A, a scallion allergy held by all vampires? B, a shadow government straddling vampire society ruled by Fey lords? Or C, a treaty between vampires and Fey? B, 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 B. A lot of B's. Yes, yes. It is B. The shadow government straddling vampire society ruled by the Fey Lords. And that's really one of the big cruxes of this book is the conflict between vampire and Fey. And if you were around when I read chapter 1, William mentioned Tailcoat Jack, who is some sort of Fey enforcer that made Siobhan a little uneasy at the mere mention of his name. All right. So what's next for the Lisaverse? I call it the Lisaverse. I've been using it in my head, Lisaverse, so I might as well just say it out loud. So right now I have, The Unlife of Lisa Cooper, which takes place modern day. And then The Vampires of 1863 is out right now. That's a prequel. It's same character, Siobhan McQueenie in the 1800s. More novellas. Yeah, I'd love to do more historical novellas. I want to get into her stories through the years, the early 1900s and, the 1950s and the 1970s. I'd love to do like a disco, like what is she doing in, at a discotheque or something like that. Show her in the 80s or the 90s. That would be a lot of fun. And other little projects, like I have the Mezzanine Speakeasy, which is a free short story you get if you sign up for my newsletter. It takes place in 1925. There's The Wicked Wound of Whitney Hill, which concentrates on these spellcasting women that appear in the same universe. Lisa's not in that one, but it's the same universe. And there's a short story I did for Realm of Enchantments, which is Nicole and Lawrence Wheatley's anthology that they have for fantasy stories and poetry that is about a siren that takes place in the same universe as all this stuff. So I'm building out this stuff. So yeah, Lauren was absolutely right. This is more novellas for the history of her. And I'm in the middle of writing book 2 of The Unlife of Lisa Cooper. And that may wind up being, it's going to be at least 3 books, but it might be 4. And then I may do an anthology of short stories that take place of like her through the decades. I don't know. Maybe I'll release them one at a time, or I haven't made up my mind. But definitely more history and the story of her and Neil and Chewie. If you've been following that story with The Unlife of Lisa Cooper, that's going forward too. All right, it's prize time again. Giving away another signed copy of my sorry. Oh, I hit. Sorry. I didn't. It came through. Did everybody see that? The anthology. Yeah, I'm trying to reset the giveaway tool right now. And we're going to do all right, we're going to do share screen, the giveaway tool, and we're going to do hashtag the word three, THREE. So if you want to win a signed paperback, put in the chat hashtag three, the word three, THREE, and we'll roll it. We'll roll it again. This is the last drawing of the night. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. Some folks might have dropped off. I know it's wicked late in England right now. Give it another second if someone wants to hop in and put. All right, giveaway tool. Oh, Nicole, that's awesome. Congratulations. Nicole's Bookish Nook. Nicole wins. That is awesome. That is so great. Yeah, I'll, for Megan and Nicole, I'll be in touch with you. That is awesome. You know what? Let's do. I promised 3, and I didn't do one at the top of the game because, I think there was only like 2 people on or 3 people on, and it was basically going to be like, well, you're just going to you'll get the prize. So let's do one more. And it's going to be pound and the word four, FOUR. And we'll do one more. For those who want a chance to win the signed. I think that's it, right? Because we had 4 the last time, and then Nicole won, so we're down to 3. Those competition's getting fierce now. Here we go. Ben. Awesome. That is awesome. Yes. Well, I mean, that's it. We went a little over an hour, which I planned for an hour or so. But thank you all so much for joining. I'm so pumped to see so many people show up and new faces that I've connected with, and this is just great. I'm so excited for this book, and I hope if you're checking it out or if you want a copy, I hope you enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it. I mean, this was a labor of love. I love this character so much, and I think those of you who know me know how much I'm just passionate about Lisa. So telling her backstory was just such a labor of love for me. Yeah, thank you all so much, and yeah, I'll be in touch, and we'll see each other around on social media, I'm sure. Let's get together, we'll collab on YouTube or whatever we do. But thank you. Oh yes, yes. I'm gonna highlight that. Yes, Balticon. Balticon was awesome. And yes, leave a review. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you read it and love it, or read it and however you feel, leave a review. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.